Nothing Personal starts in 30 seconds. It's just business. This is Nothing Personal.
Here you go.
Pivotal. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day. It is Thursday, October 17th, 2024. That is just not acceptable for you all who are live with us. So I'm going to do that better. Here we go, DraftKings Network. 4, 8, 6, 9. Pivotal. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day. It's Thursday, October 17th, 2024. There was a pivotal game 3 last night in New York. Everyone was all excited, walking past the chop shops, getting ready. And the Mets laid an egg, an absolute stinker. It's not like they didn't have a chance. Lindor had a chance early. They were going up against Walker Buehler, who shouldn't even have started a game if anybody were healthy, coming off a relatively major second Tommy John. There's nothing relative about it. It's major. Coming back, has not performed well. Not a strikeout pitcher. Not able to throw 97 and be the dominant guy he was. Remember back in 2020? Yet last night, Walker Buehler looked like a top of the rotation guy. I don't know if anybody in the chat on the Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel came up with pivotal, but if you did, you're going to win. Because if you can guess the word of the day, you're going to get some merch from us off davidsamsonpodcast.com. Yesterday, Steve Grabowski knew what the word of the day was going to be. And if you gave me $1 right now, I couldn't tell you what the word of the day was yesterday. True story. Yesterday was October 16th. No idea. Let's talk about this. Congratulations, Steve. Let's talk about the Dodgers. You remember when they finished off the Padres with 2 shutouts? You remember game 1 against the Mets, shutout. Game 2 was a turnaround 7-3 Mets win, but last night it was 8-0. That's 4 shutouts in their last 5 games from a pitching staff that is nothing but destroyed when it comes to injuries. Forget the fact that their leadoff hitter, the designated hitter, Shohei Ohtani, is not pitching. The list of starting pitchers who were unavailable from Gonsolin to May, it just goes on. They had a very critical bullpen injury. Vezia had some sort of, his back acted up, or maybe an abductor muscle. I remember the first time that I learned what an abductor muscle was when one of our players got that. I had never heard of it, never seen it. I don't want to say what we used to say when a player who we didn't think was that mentally strong pulled a muscle. We would say it was not an abductor or an oblique. So the Dodgers come into the playoffs with the most pressure. Dave Roberts fighting for his job, playing against the Padres, their division rival, who were the better team in theory going into the series. Potentially can suffer a letdown going into the championship series against the Mets the same way the Yankees could against the Guardians. We'll talk about that. Feeling as though that winning all those division titles in a row, making the playoffs, having the dominant run that they've had, they're just the Braves until they win a second title. And frankly, maybe they're still the Braves because it would be one non-COVID, non-Texas bubble title. Putting together a lineup where you keep Ohtani at the top for a reason that I don't understand. Shohei Ohtani is 0 for 22 with the bases empty, and he can't not. There's no reason for a double negative there, David. None at all. He's almost perfect with runners on base. So he came up with two on and hit a 3-run homer last night, and I was thinking, When you've got the bottom of your order performing the way the Dodgers do, they move Muncy up to clean up. He gets on base 5 times. They have Kike Hernandez, who is the number one postseason clutch player in terms of the difference between stinking and being a utility guy during the regular season and then becoming a superhero during the postseason. Kike was a player of ours. We traded for him, and he is a attitudinal man. He's got an edge to him. You've seen it in LA. He's got this his MO is that he doesn't ever go unnoticed, both inside the clubhouse, in the dugout, on the field. And very few players are able to back up the type of talk that he does, the type of behavior that he exhibits. But boy, oh boy, does he back it up, especially in the postseason. So if you know that you're having a bottom of the lineup that is producing, maybe that's the reason you agree to keep Ohtani at the top. Because other than that, there's none when Betts is a far more true leadoff hitter, and you know Ohtani is performing in an insane way with runners on base. Last night, John Smoltz, who's calling the game, said that it's too small a sample size. There should be no thought about his performance, Ohtani's, with runners on base versus bases empty. And I don't see it that way at all, actually. It is not too small a sample size because in the postseason, the sample size is frankly all that matters, because postseason is different than regular season. Now, I've spoken to you often in baseball, often about sample size, often about how you can't overreact to a situation, how momentum is only the next day's starting pitcher. So in theory, if Yamamoto has a bad start tonight and Quintana does what he's done this postseason, then the Mets tie the series at 2. It's what we talked about going into game 5, where the Mets are trying to win 2 out of 3 at home. And then that's it. You have to go to LA and win 1 of 2. All of that remains possible. But who amongst us was watching that game last night and watching the series develop and watching both the top, bottom of the order and the bullpen for the Dodgers perform while the bullpen for the Mets didn't? Who amongst us was watching and not watching Severino, thinking he's not gonna get through this? It looks like he has no command of the spin. Fastball at the top of the zone was working. But didn't you just have that feeling? And you're not alone. Executives look at a game and have that feeling too. Unfortunately, when you've got the bullpen behind you, as the Mets have, there's really not much you can do. So what is the hope if you are a Mets fan? You're hoping you're part of the 30% because the game 3 winner in a tied series wins the series, a 7-game series, 70% of the time. So you can hope you're part of the 30. It's not out of the question. You can hope that Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman will go back to being 0 for 19, which they were before Betts got his single in the top of the 7th last night. You can hope for that. You can hope that Kike will not be Mr. October 17th. You can hope that with his postseason OPS over 980 and his regular season OPS at 650. That is the ultimate sign of a clutch playoff player. I guess you could hope that. You could hope that somehow the system of win-loss will continue, that the Mets will hit with runners in scoring position, that Lindor will get up with the bases loaded and not strike out. You can hope that too. Absolutely. But realistically, given Dodgers, Yankees, which is the thought that we had, which is what has been desired by baseball, which is what they need. And we're going to have a full discussion about stuff that's going on in Major League Baseball today, because there's a lot going on off the field. And I don't want to take too much focus off the field, but it's creeping in a very significant way every single day. So hope. I don't think you should give up hope for the Mets, especially when you hear my pick of the day. I think you're going to be reinvigorated, feeling like you can beat the Dodgers. All you have to do, it's really not hard, is win 3 out of 4. Tonight, we've got the Yankees going for game 3. Yeah, not much to say. Not much to say on that, because if you're watching that series, as much as you can root for Cleveland and root for the underdogs, root for the low payroll, the Yankees lineup, especially with Stanton doing what he's doing, Judge maybe breaking out of his postseason malaise with his late game home run. Maybe. No, probably not. As a matter of fact, let's just get to it, Coca. I'm happy to do that if you don't mind. Nothing personal pick of the day, presented by DraftKings. Stay tuned, because you'll hear more about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours. We've got one of the potential 3 last doubleheaders in baseball this season, and that's if the series keep going. In the early game, we've got the New York Yankees and the Cleveland Guardians going. New York Yankees are minus 118, odds subject to change. The New York Yankees will go into Cleveland and not stay very long. We've got the Yankees over the Guardians. Then in the nightcap, we've got the Dodgers and the Mets. The Dodgers are minus 135. You're welcome, Mets fans. Nothing personal pick of the day, Dodgers over Mets. If you are not excited to see the Yankees and Dodgers win the pennant and make it to the World Series, which you should be, 2 payroll behemoths playing each other, then maybe you're going to be watching Thursday Night Football, because the boys at Amazon got a good one. They got the Saints and the Broncos. Woo! Spencer Rattler and Bo Nix. Dennis Allen going in, former defensive coordinator, trying to make it right, break the 4-game losing streak against Sean Payton, he of Bounty Gate and the Broncos. We're taking the Saints +3 because no one is, because no one's playing for the Saints. I believe Samson Coca et al. Will be quarterback and wide receiver. So we've got 3 picks, because we're 141 and 152, because we had the Mets over the Dodgers last night. You're welcome, Dodgers fans. I am cold as ice. But Thursday, when it's sponsored by DraftKings, I tend to get a little steamier. So we've got Yankees, Dodgers, and Saints. Those are the nothing personal picks of the day. I'm the first one in my job as an analyst with CBS Sports, as the lucky host of Nothing Personal. I'm happy when you are focusing on the field. I'm happy with the excitement of the playoffs. October, to me, should be associated only with things on field. You're not allowed to announce anything during October without getting the commissioner's approval in baseball. Somehow it leaked out yesterday through The Athletic that the Chicago White Sox are for sale. Jerry Reinsdorf, 88 years old, coming off the record-breaking 121-loss season, and word leaks out not just that they're for sale, but that they're having advanced talks with Dave Stewart. Dave Stewart is one of the most fierce competitors I've ever seen on a pitching mound. When he's pitching for the Oakland A's and he's looking at you, the hitter, he's looking with a growl, a true grimace, and he's going to get you out. When Dave Stewart calls you on the phone and tells you he wants to buy a team, you're not intimidated. You're not excited, because you know that he doesn't have the financial backing to be a serious bidder for a Major League Baseball team. I give him credit. He's wanted to be the first Black owner, majority owner of a Major League Baseball team. There is no chance that he will ever be able to be a controlling owner of a team. And this is not yucking on Dave Stewart. It's the reality of the financial situation, where you've got to own a certain percentage to be the control person in Major League Baseball. And Dave Stewart will never be that. He may be like Derek Jeter, where you get somebody else to invest a ton of money and let you run the show. But it certainly wasn't the case in 2017, when he tried to be a bidder for the Marlins, but it was never serious. He's been working down in Nashville to try to be the head of a group to bring expansion to Nashville. Dave Stewart is being used by Jerry Reinsdorf. Let's be very clear how this is going down. Do you find it to be in any way a coincidence that Jerry Reinsdorf, coming off 121 losses, coming off statements telling you how disappointed he is and how upset he is and how things need to change because you, the fans, deserve better? We've covered every single one of those statements. Oh, I met with the mayor of Nashville because I wanted to say hi. It had nothing to do with moving the team to Nashville. Oh, I've told you that my family's keeping the Bulls, but the White Sox are going to be sold as part of estate planning. And if you don't want me to sell while I'm alive, you better get a new stadium done for me. Otherwise, hey, I could sell it to someone who may need to move or want to move the team. The leak is that Dave Stewart is the main possible buyer, and he's leading the group in Nashville. These are just amazing coincidences. It almost seems impossible to believe that we're not hearing the truth out of Jerry Reinsdorf or the White Sox. It's a bunch of horse hockey. This is the same team and the same man who I have let me preface this. This is not personal, Jerry, while you take nothing personal very personally, while you're angry and upset when I've talked about what's going on in Chicago. I have nothing but love and respect for you as a person, as a philanthropist, as a mensch. I don't care that you were so against Rob Manfred and we beat you 10 years ago and got him elected. I didn't gloat. I shook your hand and said, nice try. But you know what you're doing. You know that this is a play to get public money. You know you're competing with the Bears, and the president of the Bears just came out within a week. Kevin Warren, we're going to get a deal done in 2025. Down in the city, maybe. Arlington, never know. You know you're not working with them anymore. You know there's a limit of public funding availability. I am not telling you that your strategy's bad. I'm just telling everybody else that the strategy's bad. How about the network that you started? When everybody else is realizing that their regional sports networks are worth nothing. Masson, what's that worth? Bupkis, the Yes Network. Sorry, Yankees fans. The Yes Network it's carbon dating down to zero. SNY. Love you, Steve, but no. Regional sports networks are not working. Yet Chicago started a regional sports network trying to say that that's the solution to the RSN disruption is we'll just get another network and we'll put the Bulls on it. We'll put the White Sox on it. We'll put the Blackhawks on it. We'll hope to God that the Black Sox and Danny Wirtz, who took over when his dad dropped dead, that he's not going to complain about distribution and carriage of this new Chicago sports network, except he did. I want to talk about this for 1 second, if you don't mind. I appreciate your indulgence, but there is a big advantage from time to time in business when you zig while other people zag. There are people who love buying into a recession. There's a ton of people who are contrarians. You can make billions of dollars doing that. The thing is that in order for that to work, it has to be in an industry where there is a palpable and provable reason why there has been a mistake in people's direction. It can be through analytics. It can be through your own private investigation, through your own proprietary formulas that show when certain industries are undervalued. All of that is valuable. all of that can happen. There is nobody today who can tell you that the regional sports network business is anything other than finished. And when I say that, I'm not saying just because Diamond is in Chapter 11 bankruptcy. I'm not saying it because Diamond is appealing to judges trying to get a named sponsor, and they're doing it now to replace Bally's. I'm not saying that because they have a deal with the NBA and the NHL, which is a deal that neither the NBA or the NHL want long-term. It's a short-term deal that got mischaracterized. It's simply for next season. I'm not telling you the RSN model is broken because they've already said they don't want any deals with baseball except the Braves. I'm telling you the RSN model is broken because you all are never going back. It's not a trend. Nobody is going to pay for what they don't want. Every single network is going to get tiered. And once they do that, the flow of funds that used to go from the cable companies to the regional sports networks to the teams has dried up. So when you start a network, and their team's doing it because they're trying, yes, they are. It's like the Portland Trailblazers sending you an antenna because they're so happy to be over the air. It's marketing. It's horse hockey. It's like being told 4 million people can watch our games, not 1 million. It doesn't matter. We're so happy to be over the air now. Just keep in mind that the money that was expected to come from the networks to the teams has permanently changed. When teams have decided what their payrolls were going to be based on revenue models that they thought were certain, those long-term models are finished now. All teams, including the Yankees. Nobody will believe me. A special shout out to Jeff Passan. The Yankees get crushed operationally every year. The Padres, not sustainable. Baseball has got to figure out, and I mean the 30 owners, what do you want from your league? I've told you that Bud Selig asked us that all the time. Rob Manfred asked us that all the time. What kind of league do you want? Do you want 4-hour games? Do you want all true outcomes, strikeouts, walks, and home runs? Talk to me. 23 of you vote, and that's the game we'll have. 23 people can't vote to say they want things the way they were. There is nobody, including Barbra Streisand, who can make that happen. And if you think that that new reality is going to be well received by the players' union during collective bargaining negotiations, then you're not paying attention to collective bargaining negotiations, because what the players are saying is, hey, I don't care if our TV revenue's down. The fact is, these teams are worth billions of dollars. Guess what? The overwhelming majority of older time owners, the owners who were there when I was president, whether it's Bruce Sherman of the Marlins, Bob Nutting of the Pirates, the list goes on and on. Bud Selig was a great example of this too. When a person's wealth is tied up in an asset that is not throwing off money that is required for that person to live in the way that someone who has an asset that valuable wants to live, something's got to give. When a team has acquisition debt or operational debt, which means that when they've lost money, they have funded it with borrowing money, not by their own money. When that exists, something's got to give. When teams are operating on an operating profit, but using that profit to pay down debt, or when teams are operating at a loss and borrowing up to their capacity, which is running out, something's got to give. In the sport of baseball off the field, there are changes coming. It's manifested itself with the Minnesota Twins going up for sale. is a further manifestation that the White Sox are now for sale? Or is this all part of Jerry's public funding plan? Or has he said to himself, we don't seem to be making enough money. I'm 88 years old. Maybe this is the perfect time to sell. Maybe my regional sports network is going to work where every other regional sports network hasn't worked. It's simply not realistic. So what now? What does baseball do as they rumble toward a Yankees-Dodgers World Series, where it seems as though it is a dream come true? Attendance is up, interest is up. The press releases, as we told you, are coming fast and furious. The highest rated LDS. Wait till you see the LCS. God knows they need 6 or 7 games out of one of these series. NGTH, not going to happen. But behind all of that, there is an existential crisis, and I don't use that flippantly. The existential crisis is baseball being operated in a way that it cannot continue to be operated in. And people say it all the time. Oh, I can just hang on another month, another quarter, another year. At what point, when you're doing something in your business or in your personal life, when you hang on from holiday to holiday or event to event, oh, I'm just going to not break up with her or him because we've got plans next Saturday or we've got a trip planned. Then you open your eyes, it's been a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Baseball can't close its eyes anymore. The reckoning off the field has happened. And this isn't about Ohtani getting $700 million, 68 of which is deferred. This isn't about Juan Soto and what his market is, or the fact that Castellanos fired Boris, which I could have spent 20 minutes on. It's not about the top-end free agents or the middle or the bottom. This is about overall player comp. This is about team payrolls. This is about teams operating budgets. This is about what kind of sport are we going to have when it comes. That's a dollar fine. What kind of sport are they going to have from a media standpoint? Anyone else notice the last night's game was on FS1? It's a league championship series. Why? You know why. More people are watching The Masked Singer. That's why. I'm excited very much to see whether or not it will stay that YouTube TV, as an example, will never do business with RSNs. I'm excited to see what will happen in Chicago, where you've got a mayor. God knows you know about Brandon Johnson. You've seen some clips of him. There's a lot of clips of him who right now is fighting with teachers. There's a whole thing. Side note, Coca, the whole fight that's going on in Chicago with the Board of Education, where they all just resigned, and he got sort of accused of using taxpayer money to go to London. Every politician travels internationally on taxpayer money. Every one of them, from city commissioners to county commissioners to mayors to governors. That's nothing new. What's new is that Chicago needs to figure out, as a city, Illinois as a state, possible expansion cities from Nashville to Portland to San Antonio to Montreal, to the 30 current owners in Major League Baseball. Everyone's got to figure out what is the future of a sport that is so quickly losing ground to the NFL and the NBA, that is fighting off the NHL and fighting off Major League Soccer. And when I say losing ground and fighting off, I'm talking what I always talk in this regard, which is franchise valuations. Who's going to be the agent of change? Jerry Reinsdorf? I don't think so. When we come back, we're going to review a Thursday movie that I'm going to quote from. And then I want to talk about something that's happening in the baseball world off the field with insurance. Now, make sure your eyes don't glaze over. They shouldn't, because you're going to be fascinated by this, because I was. Can you imagine insuring against bad performance? After the break, we're going to talk about it. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. Thanks for being here. My name's David Samson. We're here every day, 8 a.m. live on the Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel. Hit subscribe. Enjoy it. Try to think of the word of the day. What are we going to talk about? Thank you to DraftKings Network, where we are now 10:30 in the morning. Yes, indeed. You're a half hour from seeing Levitar to the DraftKings Network. And thank you for all of the audio audience. I'm hearing from so many of you on davidsamsonpodcast.com, so many of you on Twitter, that I fall behind in my responses, and I apologize. Because one thing I will not give up, I'm sorry, I won't give up watching a movie every day. I've been doing that for decades, long before Nothing Personal. Every Thursday, we review a movie from our top 100. And this week, I'm reviewing A River Runs Through It. That's a movie directed by Robert Redford, who also was the narrator, starring Brad Pitt, Craig Schaefer. It's a movie. It actually has Joseph Gordon-Levitt in it as a little boy. It may have been his first role. I'm not sure. But he plays a young, it's sort of the young character who grows into Craig and Brad Pitt. It's a movie about fishing. But no, it's not. That's what some people say who haven't seen it. It's a movie about family. When you've got, and I'm totally blanking, who's his first name is Tom, and he's got a mustache in Top Gun. He plays the preacher father of the boys, and it's not Tom Sizemore. It is, help me, Coca, please. Skerritt. Thank you, Tom Skerritt. Did you say that with a question mark in my ear because you weren't sure, or you were positive that was Tom Skerritt? Because it was Tom Skerritt, who plays the mayor in the Cameron Crowe movie Singles, which you should check out. This is a movie about what happens to a family and to brothers. It is one of my top 20 emotional movies. It brings out all sorts of feelings. And the end of the movie is a narrative. And the last words of the movie is not a narrative, it's a narration. It's a talkover. And the last words of the movie are, and a river runs through it. And you may not know what it means to have a river run through it, but I assure you that when you watch the movie, you'll know exactly what that means. You know that if it's in my top 100, I care about it and love it. And you know I'm going to ask you to see it. Coca, first bring up the spreadsheet, but secondly, I got last week maybe 20 separate communications from various people that they are, when they need a movie to watch, they go to our top 100 list on davidsamsonpodcast.com. That makes me happy. Enjoy A River Runs Through It. All right, let's pull up the spreadsheet and see what we get to watch this week and review next Thursday. This is from a fan of ours who did this spreadsheet. Look at all the yellow and green. That's what we've covered. Go ahead, Coca. Straight Outta Compton. What number is that, Coca? 68. I have seen that movie only once, and it made my top 100, and now I'm going to get to watch it a second time. Isn't the actor, I believe the actor is the son of the original member who is now doing a podcast on Rich Eisen's network. Coca, that is the most random thing to know, but I believe I'm right. Now, you don't need to look at that. Ice Cube's son, O'Shea Jackson Jr. stars, I think I have it right, in Straight Outta Compton. Plain Ice Cube, I believe. I digress. Let's talk about this new company. Don't you love, it's 2024. It's no different than 2014, 2004, 1993, 1984, 74, 64. Everyone's trying to start a business, find an angle. Everyone's trying to accumulate wealth, either to pay bills or to get all sorts of extra items in their life. I'm fascinated with entrepreneurs and businesses that are started, ideas that are hatched. There is a new company that was started, and this one takes the cake. This is a new company that is going to Major League Baseball owners and saying, "Hi, my name is John Abamonte, and I've been studying for a year. I hired a bunch of analytics guys, and we've come up with a new stat. The new stat is called runs above replacement. And here's what we're going to do. If you sign a player to a long-term contract and you buy a policy from us, not all the other insurance companies who are only selling you disability insurance, which I'm going to remind you what that is, we're going to sell you insurance against sucking." I'm sorry, what? Tell me what do you mean by that? Well, if you sign a guy to a long-term deal and he's bad, we're going to give you money back. Let me get this straight, because this obviously has to be a trick. This can't be real. If I sign Jordan Montgomery to a contract, or if I sign Al Leiter to a one-year deal, love you, Al, or if I sign Jared Saltalamacchia to a 3-year deal, good to see you, Salty, and they are bad, I get to call you up and you're going to pay for their salary? Say it ain't so, Joe. Well, David, it's not quite like that. Let me explain. First, you're going to have a bad player signing. Then you're going to pay us a big premium, which means that if you owe a player $10 million and you want to get a policy, you're going to pay us $3 million, which means you're out of pocket $13 million. And if the player plays to the level that the player is supposed to play, then you're out 13 million, not 10. But if the player's bad, then you paid us 3, but we're going to pay you back not just that 3, but we're going to pay part of the original 10. So you'll only be paying like 5 million for that crappy player instead of 13. So you're saying that we're going to come to an agreement on the type of season a player should have, and then we're going to pay a premium, and then it doesn't matter if the player gets injured and doesn't perform, or the player's fined but doesn't perform. We're going to measure it with this runs above replacement thing, and we'll have an agreement in place how to measure it, and then we'll have an agreement in place that if he's 2 runs below or 3 runs below or 4 runs above, we'll have it all set up already. That's the business? Let me give you a few thoughts on that business. While they're telling you that baseball players earn about $5 billion collectively, which is true, and you're telling me that disability insurance is an absolute fraud, which it is, I'm sorry, with all due respect to the people in insurance who I know and love. I love you, DG. You know how hard it is to collect. All we do is spend our time suing insurance companies when a player gets hurt and they don't want to pay. And as it is, when you get disability insurance, it's like 3 months they have to be out with the injury, half the year, then you can apply, but you have to sue anyway. That's why most teams have now gone to self-insuring and self-insuring is a code word for no insurance. Don't let people fool you. Hi, my name's David Samson, and I'm self-insuring. It's a bunch of crock. Nobody is secreting money away in a separate account in case one of their players gets hurt. Nobody, not one team. 0. I'm self-insured. No. So people have gone away from disability insurance because it's simply not worth it. So this new product is coming in and saying, we've got a solution to that. We're going to go up to a club owner, and this is what the founder said. He literally said that we're going to tell owners, you hedge everything else in your life. Your team revenue is hedged with long-term naming rights deals. That's not exactly accurate, but okay. But he said your most significant cost is player payroll. You're bearing all the risk. Why not transfer or share some of the risk with a third party? Well, as a former team operator, let me give you the number one reason why. Because the owner looks at the cash outlay of your team. Forget SPOTrack, forget every other list that is done of active payroll, disabled payroll. We have a cash payroll that owners are focused on. What do I owe these players today? Different than the competitive balance tax and luxury tax payrolls, might I add. But we have to count the following in our payroll. It's not just the salary of the player. We've got benefits that are paid to players that are not part of their salary. Medical, pension, all sorts of the ERISA issues that make your eyes water of boredom. The type of things that get negotiated strenuously during a collective bargaining agreement negotiation. Player benefits. We've got workers' comp costs. We've got injured list player costs. That means when a player gets hurt and isn't playing for you, you're still paying the player. I'm talking about all the different buckets of cash. When you have insurance, that is a bucket of cash that goes into your calculation of what your player payroll is. Do you think that an owner wants to look at his cash payroll and say, hey, we already overpaid to get that player, but now we're going to overpay by even more? And instead of, after a player stinks, firing your manager or GM, we're going to do a Snoopy dance because we're going to root for the player to stink if our team is bad, because then we're going to get reimbursed the salary. What owner is going to approve that? What GM is going to ask for that? Can you imagine in your place of business when you have a job to do? You have a job. It's your job. You got to be good at it. Here's what I'd like you to do, you say to your boss. On the remote possibility that I stink, I would like to show you a product, an insurance product, where you can get paid if I don't know how to do my job. You want me to sell product? Well, we've got a product right here that we're going to buy that if I can't sell, it'll be like you sold the product. And I would look at my employee and I would say, I've got a way better idea. I'm going to give you a set of steak knives and send you on your way. Bye-bye. I can't figure out which team exactly would take advantage of this, because clearly there is going to be a team to do it. Because there's going to be some owner who will look at this new insurance plan and they'll say, wow, a hedge against the vagaries of performance. Hold on, I'm thinking right now. I'm thinking whether I would have done that. No, of course I wouldn't have done it. I go to the owner and say, this deal is the right deal for us right now. And then when it doesn't work, oh God, he got hurt, or oh God, who would have thought that he'd have a regression like this? I can't believe he just didn't fit with us. Wait to see when I tell you something's going to happen. If it does, great. If it doesn't, fine. I'm going to give you a wait to see about this insurance product. There will be at least one MLB team who will get a policy with this group. They will find, P.T. Barnum, one sucker who's born that particular minute who's going to take advantage of this hedge against bad performance. I watched the WNBA a little bit last night. We got the Lynx and the Liberty. What a shot to win the game for the Liberty. They're up 2-1. They're a game away. I will admit to you that it's okay. I had not followed the WNBA closely. Caitlin Clark joins the scene, and it piques my interest because A, it's great to talk about. B, the quality of the product is way better than I remember when I took a glance at it. As a matter of fact, I could even argue that the basketball may be prettier than the NBA, where it's just chuck and duck. No more mid-range shots of any kind. Of course, the Liberty won with a 70-foot three-pointer. Anything after half court, you're in range. And I was thinking about the WNBA, and then I got to thinking about John Skipper and this new league called Unrivaled. Unrivaled is a new 3x3 women's league that is going to start in January. John Skipper, as you know, from Meadowlark Media, the co-founder and CEO of Meadowlark Media. We're doing it. We did a sporting class that'll come out, I don't know when, Coca, I believe tomorrow on Pablo Torre Finds Out, when John Skipper, Pablo, and I talk about interesting things, although we think it's interesting, and you do too, based on the numbers, so thank you. And John Skipper is an investor in Unrivaled and has been trying to get a media deal. And it's hard to get media deals. And yesterday it was announced that Warner Brothers Discovery has agreed to be the media rights partner and an investor in Unrivaled. Interesting. How would that happen? Does anyone else remember when we told you that Warner Brothers Discovery was not going to get the NBA? Forget the fact that they're in a lawsuit. Forget the fact that they are trying to let all of the public know, oh, we're so unhappy. Meanwhile, their board of directors and shareholders are like, yeah. Are you been watching the fact that Warner Brothers Discovery has done all these other media rights deals to keep sports on their channels? They did a deal with the French Open. They've done some racing, and now they're doing women's 3-on-3 basketball. There will be 45 at least regular season games from the first season that will air across TNT, True TV, and Max. If you've been paying attention, Warner Brothers Discovery is trying to bolster True TV, bolster its value by putting live content on it. Everything is also paired with Max, so you can stream it, including you can see an hour or even more of the Dan Le Batard show with Stu Gatz. TNT will always be the lead of these deals, and twice a week they will show Unrivaled games, hoping that Angel Reese and anybody else in the WNBA, other than Caitlin Clark, who is not yet signed up to play in the league, will draw your interest so you can continue to engage with women's basketball. It's as though the Dominican Winter League got a bunch of famous players from Major League Baseball and did a local TV deal so you could watch baseball all year long. The concept of Unrivaled makes perfect sense. When something is going well, it doesn't matter. When something's having a moment, and a moment can last decades, can last centuries. But when something's having a moment, and right now women's sports is having a moment, there will be things that sprout like weeds, different leagues, different partnerships, promotions, all trying to take advantage of you, the consumer, who have shown an interest in this category and are willing to spend money as part of the category. This is not to say that doing a deal with TNT was not difficult for John Skipper and his partner, David Levy. I'm not saying that at all. Levy, excuse me. This is to say that TNT, Warner Brothers Discovery, is the perfect partner for Unrivaled because they need content. They need to be able to say, even without the NBA, we can excuse the amount of money that we are charging all the distributors for our network of channels, for our menu of channels, TNT, TBS, True TV, etc. When you are going out to sell a product, and in this case, the media rights for Unrivaled, but whatever product you're selling, what do? You go to the people who need what you're selling. That's your first choice always. People joke, hey, I could sell ice to Eskimos. And what that meant to say is I can sell something to people who don't need what I'm selling. That means you're really good. It still requires skill to sell heat to Eskimos because you have to convince them that not they need heat, they know it. You have to convince them the type of heat you're selling is the one they want. And that's what Unrivaled did. They went to Warner Brothers Discovery and said, hey, this makes perfect sense. It matches your need with what we're providing. What does it actually mean for the value of Unrivaled? And this, by the way, never talked about this with John. You may find that hard to believe, but I haven't. What does it mean for the viability of the league? Getting the naming rights deal, getting the media rights deal was critical. But at the end, we don't know, and we won't know until the league plays because it's just business. See you tomorrow. This is nothing personal.